where Russel City was, what happened to it, and why it still matters even today. So we're going to start with where Russel City was. But to start with Russel City, we really need to start with the land and the layers before the community. So for thousands and thousands of years, we only occupied this land. Sometimes that is not acknowledged or it's overlooked, but it's very important to understanding our history. Then we had Danish immigrants settling the land, primarily for farming and for agricultural purposes. The land at that time was once known as Little Copenhagen. Then we have in the 1850s, Joel Russell, who was a New England native, came to the Bay Area, and he acquired land from under a former Mexican land grant from the Soda family. He then started subdividing parcels and selling them to working class families. So Russell City wasn't created through like a planned official development. It developed gradually as the land, as working class families occupied the land. Geographically, it was situated along the San Francisco Bay. It's currently now part of the industrial west part of Hayward. It's bordered by Clinton Avenue and Fall River Road. So to get to Russell City back in the day, you would go all the way down West River Road past the railroad tracks, and that's where Russell City used to be. Now let's talk about what exactly Russell City was. So Russell City, I'm sorry. So Russell City was a small unincorporated community in Alameda County, meaning it did not have its own city government. Daily life really revolved around work, family, church, and community. It wasn't built by institutions. There were homes, gathering spaces, open land, and Russell City was largely absent from history books because the stories weren't preserved, the stories were not documented. So our responsibility today is to ensure this story is told. So what you're looking at here is how opportunity and exclusion were intentionally mapped out. The Bay Area used to be primarily white, in some cases up to 97%. And it wasn't by chance. It was through interconnected systems. So in the 1940s, systemic racism, restrictive covenants, and exclusionary zoning barred people of color from purchasing homes in many Bay Area neighborhoods. And so people of color had to look elsewhere to live. And Russell City was one of the few places that people could buy land and try to create a life for themselves. And the people who found themselves in Russell City, they came from everywhere. Over time, Russell City became home to a mosaic of residents, including African Americans, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Filipinos, as well as working class whites and others who were excluded from opportunities elsewhere. And despite existing for decades, again, we're only really now getting to know about this community and understanding more about the people who built it. So, we talked about where Russell City was, we talked a little bit about what it was, but now it kind of helps to imagine what it actually felt like to live there. So people didn't lock their doors, they watched out for each other's children, they knew your name, they knew your family's name, they knew your business, and they showed up for and they protected each other. It was a very, very close-knit community. Oh, I'm sorry. Church was not just, so there were many churches in Russell City, and these were not just places of worship. People used these as gathering spaces, for connection, for support, for celebration, community events, and shared meals also brought people together. Local businesses were more than just a place to eat and shop, they were also social hubs. These were places where people gathered, they laughed, they talked, and they stayed connected. Russel City was also a thriving hub for West Coast blues. Some of the greatest names in blues history played there at Miss Al's Club as well as the Country Club. And you can see that there were some very nationally known artists such as Ray Charles, Etta James, T-Bone Walker, Big Mama Thornton. There were local legends that visited Russell City as well, such as Billy Dunn and Elsie Robinson. And these were not just passing performances. Russell City was on the map. Has anyone seen this mural at 1070 H Street in Hayward? Did you know anything about it or what it was about? Well, this mural is a tribute to the West Coast Blues legacy of Russell City. And is one of the very few public reminders that this community existed and left something lasting behind. There was also a deep sense of pride in Russell City. People built lives there. They raised their families there. When people talk about Russell City, they don't talk about buildings. They talk about people. They talk about relationships. And they talk about memories. Everything I've just described, the unlocked doors, the music, the churches, the businesses, the neighbors, I didn't learn that from the book. I learned that from the Russell City community, and I learned that from my own family. And nothing brings it closer to home than my own family story. So my family lived in Russell City 4 generations. My great-great-grandparents, Leona and Manuel Alves, or Alves, if you will, owned property since 1935. My great-great-great-grandmother was the first to arrive in Russell City. She was originally from Italy, Texas. Now we don't know when Leona got there, but we do know that when she did, Mary Anderson was already there and well established. By the time my mother was born, there were 5 living generations in Russell City. Now that kind of continuity is rare, and it speaks volumes to how deeply rooted my family was in this space. This is my grandmother, Leona Alves. She was a matriarch, a trailblazer, and a force to be reckoned with. She was an aircraft spotter in World War II. She was protecting a country that would not give her community running water. She built her own home and her own restaurant, not figuratively, literally, with her own hands. She also held a liquor license, which was extraordinary for a Black woman at this time. And she used her business and her influence to help and strengthen the surrounding community. She advocated tirelessly for Russell City and on multiple fronts. She organized for youth. She organized for water and sewer access. She spoke out against displacement in the Daily Review. So my grandmother wasn't a bystander. She was not quietly ignorant. She was organizing, she was speaking out, and she was fighting back, decade after decade. A former resident told me, your grandmother was a true inspiration and trailblazer for our community, and she absolutely deserves to be honored and recognized for her contribution. I couldn't agree more. So my family owned Ideal Dining and Miss Al's Club from 1935, pardon me, until its dismantling by eminent domain. So Ideal Dining was the restaurant, and Miss Al's Club was the nightclub where all the music happened. Ideal Dining was a source of dignity and pride for my grandmother, And her restaurant was named intentionally. She wanted her customers to have an ideal dining experience. And so every table had a white tablecloth, fine cutlery, and there was a vase of fresh cut flowers. Local favorites were her fried chicken and her 35-cent cheeseburgers. And this wasn't just Leona's work, this was family work. My great-great-grandfather, Manuel, from the Cape Verde Islands, he worked there. My grandmother, Barbara Hightower, was a server and cook at the restaurant. My grandfather, Udell, helped out. My Aunt Patricia helped out. Even my mother, Francesca, who I'm named after, was a part of this space. Sam Nava, former resident, and sorry, I think the mic just went out. Can you hear me?
Yeah. As well.
Okay, hold on a second.